Kelly, thank you. We're taking a trip back in time to the sweltering summer of 1984 in Detroit. But it's a moment in our history marked by more than just record-breaking heat. Here's a closer look at the crime front.
1984.
Only Chief Hart can issue the duty order, however. A senior white officer.
The summer of 1984 in Detroit is looked upon as a turbulent time. The city struggling with economic hardships, followed by a huge spike in crime. Reports of homicides, assaults, robberies dominated the headlines and created an environment of fear.
The movie New Jack City was an example, perfect example.
It's based on Detroit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember that well.
Former Detroit Police Chief Ike McKinnon takes us down memory lane. At the time, he was a 19-year veteran on the force when gang activity kept the city on edge.
Well, they would hold events, and if there are people that were there, they would raise hell with them.
And when you say hold events, like to portray a positive image for themselves?
That's how they recruited. They recruited.
Very similar to New Jack City.
Absolutely.
The Turkey Drive. In charge of the DPD's gang squad at that time, McKinnon describes how vicious criminals would become to recruit young people.
They would go to a neighborhood, and they would say to a young child, "You're going to join us." And no, I'm not going to do this. Yeah, you're going to join us. And
what happened if they didn't join?
They would make an example of them. They shoot the kid. It was an incredible recruiting tool. And they would do this in neighborhood by neighborhood.
Get that money from drugs. He said the evidence in this case screams for a guilty verdict.
Too many young lives lost. The other tragedy, from corner to corner, temptation walking hand in hand with crime.
You imagine a kid in 1984, or before that, or even after that, who someone would say that you're going to make $400 a day. We'll give this to you. And a child 11, 12, 13 years of age, they brought those kids into this group or gangs, and that's what they did.
The local reports during the year of 1984, heartbreaking.
A later starting time for schools was not the only evidence of the city's new crackdown on schoolgirl rapes. At Central High School, where parents were dropping off their children this morning, a police scout car cruised by. A symbol, perhaps, that police officials are declaring war on those who might prey on young girls. Johnny Lewis, a parent, noticed the heightened visibility and liked it.
Do you think the police presence is adequate around the school?
Yeah, I believe it is. I saw quite a few around today.
So you think they're trying harder?
Yes, I believe they are.
Police Chief William Hart calling the trend a crisis perpetuated by fear.
The thing that you have going now is not a real crime wave, it's a fear. I mean, you can ask any citizen, they're scared than hell because they see this thing on the TV over and over again. You can't turn the TV on, the rape crisis.
We will not accept young hoodlums or old hoodlums, jitterbugs or litterbugs, taking over the streets of this city.
Detroit's mayor and top cop working together to tackle the problem.
So Chief Hart, who I remember well, he sent a letter to Mayor Coleman Young. He said, there are things that we have to do because these young kids basically out of control. So they formed a task force.
They organized a meeting between law enforcement and criminals. Listen to the way it all unfolded.
We arranged a meeting for about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I got there too, to make sure. And I had the SWAT team and everybody they're watching, looking, and a metal detector that they didn't know about. And there were 3 people from each gang. And they all walked in. These kids had been killing each other. They'd been shooting each other the day before and days before. We're sitting at the table, and I said, well, I'm here. And these young people, they said, well, you know, this has never happened before, but we want to change our lives. They said, how can, I said, you can ride around in cars. They said, can we carry our pieces? I said, no. I mean, this is a serious conversation. I said, no, you're not going to carry the weapons. They said, okay, but we can guarantee you, Chief, there won't be any shootings in our area. I said, my Lord, this is incredible. Anyway, that's what they did. If you could help us get jobs, we want to go to school, we want to stop killing each other. I said, my God, this is absolutely incredible that these young people, 16, 17-year-old kids are talking about this. So I went on and met with people from Ford and General Motors and the Illich organization, and they hired these young people.
The start of a better life.
It worked for that time.
Let there be tears of joy.
Over the years, McKinnon has been a friend and mentor to the current police chief, James White.
Chief White is a great man, and I think he's done a great job of bringing along a great staff with him. And I think he's making a big difference also. But we have to make sure that we learn from those young people.
And with a sharp memory, McKinnon says repeating history could be the key.
Listen to the young people. Read and hear what they're saying. Listen to the families that need. The mentoring is so important. And those people who have lived through those things. I lived through being in Vietnam. Never want to go to a war again. I lived through being shot at multiple times here in Detroit. Lived through that. So I have in me this empathy for people who have suffered or almost lost their lives. So many of these young kids almost lost their lives. Now, I did this as a police officer, but I learned from it. Learned from what these young people are saying. Learned what we did. Learned what others did to impact and learn from these young people as to how things can change their lives.
Now let's take a look at some of these numbers. In 1984, more than 800 fires burned Halloween weekend in what was known as Devil's Night. That was the highest in the city's history, according to the fire department. The night before Halloween now turned into Angel's Night as part of the city's efforts to combat arson, and fires have plummeted. Also in '84, there were nearly 600 homicides in Detroit, one of the highest totals in the country during that time. But earlier this year, city leaders announced that in 2023, the year ended with about 250 homicides, the lowest number in nearly 60 years. City leaders stressing more work needs to be done, but we are heading in the right direction.
Wow. A lot has changed in 40 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's good change, too.
Great change, great perspective.